What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome into another live post-game show on both my channel and Michael's channel. For the first time, guys, we are trying out something a little bit different tonight. Me and Michael have been looking into doing this for a long time, but you guys are able to view this from both KC Sports Report and Show Me Football. And tonight we are here to break down the Kansas City Chiefs 19-17 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers, Michael, on a DOINK field goal to secure the AFC West for the gazillionth year in a row. That was another classic Chiefs regular season game. Michael, what are your thoughts and feelings after that one?
Josh, it just feels like each and every single week the Chiefs find different ways to give me a heart attack. If you would have told me the Chiefs are going to win this game on a walk-off field goal, I wouldn't have doubted you. I wouldn't have thought that this game was going to be a blowout. I expected it to be close. Did I expect Matthew Wright to essentially shank a 31-yard field goal attempt, have it go off the left upright, bang off the other one, and then into, the back of the crossbar for the field goal to be good? I did not expect that. And so the Chiefs continue to find ways to win. 19-17 was your final score. I mean, Josh, did you think this game was going to go any other way? I mean, this is typical Chiefs, winning a game on a last-second, field goal and just giving every Chiefs fan in the kingdom a heart attack.
Yeah, no, this is just how I imagined it would play out. It would be a close game at the very end, and I mean, it's a divisional game, but this isn't as, pathetic feeling as, let's say, the Panthers game or the Raiders game, because the Chargers are actually respectable this year. And it's still Justin Herbert at quarterback. They have a lot of talent. They've taken a step forward with Jim Harbaugh this year as the head coach. That said, there's still a lot of issues with this team and issues that we're going to get into in tonight's live stream, Michael, because the Chargers were also very short-handed in this game. They had really no one at receiver in this game, and yet still were able to drive down the field with ease against this Chiefs defense. That's something we've been on about for the past several weeks on both of our channels. What is going on with this Chiefs defense? The offense looked out of sorts. It was another ugly win for the Kansas City Chiefs, but it feels a little bit better because this is against an 8-5 Chargers team that is a lot more competitive than the Carolina Panthers or the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, and it's also a divisional game. Divisional games are always close. The Chiefs and the Chargers, when they played it earlier this year at SoFi, the final score was 17-10. So we kind of knew it was going to be in this very low-scoring range. I didn't expect it to come down to the last play, but with this Chiefs team, you can't be shocked at the outcome. And I knew the Chiefs are going to win this game. The question was going to be, were they going to give the Chargers the ball back? Could they go down the field and score with 15 to 20 seconds left on the clock? Andy Reid did a great job to manage this game down the stretch. I would have actually liked to see them go for the touchdown in that moment, just because Matthew Wright, he's your third kicker. He's been good this season. He hasn't missed for the Chiefs, but why even put it into his hands? Why not just let Patrick Mahomes go down there and win the game himself? Yeah,
those were kind of my thoughts, and we were talking about this off air. Towards the end, when the Chiefs got that first down and it was in their control, I thought to myself, I would really love if we still went for the touchdown, because you're on your third string kicker at this point in the season. I don't know how this isn't Harrison Butker. You shouldn't treat it as the same way as if he was in there. And so I wish they were a little more aggressive, because in the back of my head, I was thinking something disastrous could happen. Luckily, we avoided disaster. It looked like that Cairo Santos field goal against the Denver Broncos so many years ago. And that was also a Sunday Night Football game with Mike Tirico. And it looked the exact same. I think it was in the same end zone as well. Well, actually, was that game in Denver? I think that one was in Denver. But regardless, the Chiefs won. Now, there's another point I want to get to, and I'll put up Rodney Hale's comment here. 2 more wins and we get the 1 seed right. That's why this game was also really huge. Not only do you lock up the AFC West, but the Buffalo Bills lost today, Michael, to the Los Angeles Rams, which gives you that cushion. Yeah, it gives you that cushion for the 1 seed. And also, the Bills play the Lions next week, another really tough opponent. And also the Pittsburgh Steelers play the Philadelphia Eagles, which is going to be a tough matchup for them. If they both lose next week and the Chiefs win again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Chiefs would have the 1 seed locked up potentially by next week.
Yeah, I mean, that's assuming that the Bills and the Steelers lose. But if you're a
Yeah.
Chiefs fan, you have to be very confident with where you're at right now. You just locked up the AFC West for the 9th consecutive year, and you're a couple ways to win from locking up that number 1 seed, getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and being able to rest some of these guys on both offense and defense because, Josh, they're tired. This defense is tired, and you saw the injuries to the offensive line. We're going to talk about those. The injuries to the defensive backs. It just seems like we continue to suffer so many freaking injuries, but the Chiefs continue to find ways to overcome that. The offense wasn't great tonight, but like they've done all season, they did just enough. Just enough. The defense, it felt like they were great in the first half, and they did just enough to win in the second half. But I will say this game, it's more on the offense because you should go out there and score 25 to 30 points when you have Patrick Mahomes and all the weapons like DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy.
Well, you mentioned how this team could really use the rest if they're able to lock up the 1 seed here relatively soon. And I agree, but I also kind of think they need these games to get in a rhythm, to find something, to have Patrick Mahomes connect on a couple of deep balls, to figure this out on offense, figure out what your offensive line rotation is. As much as they need the rest, they also kind of need the reps as well. That's kind of how I view it. And I don't know what the approach is going to be. And of course, a lot of things still have to happen for the Chiefs to actually lock up the 1 seed. But I don't know what you do, even if you do lock up the 1 seed, if the approach is going to be playing more or resting your guys. I would almost kind of like to see them play more, but I guess you could play a little more relaxed, a little more comfortable, knowing that you can make a mistake and it's not necessarily going to hurt you all that much. We're going to get more into both sides of the ball, though, Michael. Let's start with the offense. So, only put up 19 points, and it was enough to win this game. But as you get deeper into the postseason this year, my concern is that that's not going to be enough to do it. And they only scored 19 last week against the Raiders. Now, divisional games, you already made that point. Those are going to be close most of the time, regardless of the circumstances, no matter what the record of the other team is. But, man, something still just feels off. There were a lot of times tonight where Patrick Mahomes had guys open and seemed to hesitate, and then he would run into a sack, or he took off a little bit too early, or the drop back was too deep. A lot of it was play calling and coaching. Some of it was offensive line play. We got to see DJ Humphries' debut tonight, Michael, the new left tackle, and just like that, now he's injured. And it's kind of I almost blame myself a little bit because I was talking about my DJ Humphries video earlier in the week. Hey, it's good that they brought him in for depth because he could get hurt too, or someone else could get hurt. Like, it's just that it's been that kind of season. And now DJ Humphries is hurt, and Wanya Morris had to come back in. Now, I also thought Wanya Morris actually looked good after he came back in. And he's also, I think, a slightly better run blocker than DJ Humphries. But there's problems all over. I thought Jawan Taylor had a really rough game. There was one point where the ball was snapped and he just dives at the legs of Khalil Mack. And I'm thinking, what the heck are you doing? And it's also not just the tackles at this point either. I saw the interior allow a lot of pressure tonight, and I made sure to watch that closely. It's not just the tackles anymore. And then Trey Smith had a really dumb penalty in the second half. It was like a 3rd and 1, and he turned it into a 3rd and 16 or something crazy like that with that penalty. It was a personal foul. And I'm thinking, like, Trey, you can't do that. You already know the offense is struggling. You can't make it worse with a dumb penalty like that. I'm throwing out a lot there, Michael, but what are your thoughts on the offensive display that we saw tonight?
The Chargers knew the Chiefs' protection wasn't very good, and they blitzed. And so I kind of thought that we were going to see that, especially after a game against the Raiders on Black Friday where they got to Mahomes a lot. And so they were going to try to pinpoint the Chiefs' weaknesses and go after the tackles and also the interior guys. You mentioned Trey Smith's penalty. That's the kind of stuff you can't have. And it honestly is very uncharacteristic for this Chiefs team to have a unsportsmanlike, or it wasn't unsportsmanlike. It was, what was it again? It was a personal foul, but you can't have that in that moment when you're the experienced team. You're the team that gets everybody, riled up. You should not be the aggressor in that situation. And so I didn't like what I saw from Trey Smith there, but that might have just been a microcosm of the frustration the entire unit was under all night. Now, I will say that, DJ Humphries looked all right in his debut, but, his hamstring is not doing great right now. And so we're going to have updates on that here in the next couple of days. I want to give a shout out to Chiefs Blitz in the chat. We get a lot of your, updates, and you are a big part in our videos, whether you know it or not. So I want to shout out to you and everybody else that's watching in this chat on this live post-game show. The Chiefs are coming off of a 19-17 win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Same score as the Raiders last week on Black Friday. And man, I think I was more conditioned to feel let down by the result of this game because I didn't think it was going to be a blowout. I thought it was going to be close. But at what point are we going to see the Chiefs offense have that game where you're like, okay, like this is a formidable unit?
That's what I'm wondering too, Michael, because you need to have at least, and Patrick Mahomes actually had a quote about this a few weeks ago after the Panthers game. He said, you want to have some blowouts. As much as it is nice to get experience in these games where it's very close and you need to be the more clutch team, the more mature team, and the Chiefs have gotten a lot of experience in those scenarios this season, you do want to have games where it's like, okay, we're feeling ourselves, we're driving down the field, we are scoring on you, and you cannot stop it. And we haven't seen that this year. But there were a couple positive things. I thought Isaiah Pacheco looked particularly good tonight. Yeah. Xavier Worthy, I think, is taking more and more steps forward each week tonight. It seems like Mahomes and him were a little bit more on the same page than we've typically seen this year. There was a play where the protection broke down. Mahomes steps up looking for someone, and the guy was Xavier Worthy finally. Typically, that's a DeAndre Hopkins or a Travis Kelce play, but Xavier Worthy had a huge catch in the second half that kept the Chiefs' drive alive. And he's been finding more ways to make an impact. Travis Kelce added 5 catches for 45 yards. He was the leading receiver tonight. And then, of course, he had the clutch first down that pretty much iced it after the Chargers ran out of timeouts. But there were a lot of times in this game where, Michael, I was getting really frustrated with Andy Reid because the Kansas City Chiefs clearly were not, overwhelming the Chargers up front with the offensive line. The protection was breaking down. Patrick Mahomes was taking a bunch of hits. And there were situations, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, short yardage situations. And Mahomes is dropping back 10 yards, and we're running a spread offense. And we didn't convert, obviously, on any of them. I don't remember. And I'm thinking, why are you not running the ball? You have Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, who's been damn near automatic in short yardage this year. The offensive line isn't good, and you're having Patrick Mahomes drop back 10 yards on 3rd and 1. Why?
Or dump it off to your running back, for goodness sakes. Do not let Mahomes go back there, sit back in a pocket that's not going to hold up and, just get hit. Just get it to his running back quick. Get it to a receiver quick. Get it to Xavier Worthy. Let DeAndre Hopkins catch one of those screen passes. Get the ball out of his hands and let your, offensive weapons go to work. I don't know what Andy Reid was doing, having Patrick Mahomes drop back, sometimes 10, 15, 20 steps. It seemed at times he was getting deep back there in the pocket.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that he got hit over 10 times in this game, which is just another injury waiting to happen if he just continues to take hits like that, because those hits add up over the weeks. 10 hits there, 20 hits there. He's gotten hit a lot over the last 3 weeks. If we go back to Carolina, sacked 5 times. He was hit way more than he was sacked. If we go back to the Raiders game, sacked 5 times. He was sacked 3 times in this Chargers game. That is 13 sacks over 3 weeks. And yet the Chiefs are still undefeated in those 3 weeks. So it goes to show you that this team is just somehow defying the odds and finding a way to win. Josh, it kind of reminds me of a couple seasons ago. I think the Chiefs actually ended up winning the Super Bowl this year. But we kept complaining about the turnover problem. The Chiefs could not take care of the freaking football. And we were like, what is going on? The Chiefs are not going to win in the postseason. They're going to end up blowing it because they're just going to end up giving the game away. That didn't happen. So while we're all screaming and crying that the Chiefs aren't winning games by 2 touchdowns, I don't know if this is actually going to be a big deal in January. Now, obviously, point differential is the big thing that all the analysts are talking about. But the only important stat is that you're winning and that you're winning efficiently.
Well, and also another reason why I'm still not I'm not doing the whole freak out thing, is because it still seems like, Michael, that they're not really playing serious football. And I mean, there were times tonight too where the Chiefs easily should have gotten something done. There was a play, third down, Mahomes to Hopkins. That is a catch that Hopkins makes 95% of the time, and that was the one time he didn't catch it. You guys know the one that I'm talking about. Now, he took a big hit, and that was the reason why it wasn't complete. But still, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is known for making those types of catches. And then early in the game, the other reason I say this is the play calling, the coaching, like Mahomes dropping back on the 3rd and short or whatever. But another scenario was targeting Baylor Cupp on the first drive of the game, and he drops it. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why are we targeting Baylor Cupp?
That's a crazy pull.
You could name, if you made a list, Michael, or a hierarchy of every player that deserves a target on the Kansas City Chiefs, from most deserving to least deserving, Baylor Cupp is probably at the absolute bottom of guys that need to be targeted on offense. So
honestly, Josh, I would start going to guys on IR before I went to Baylor Cupp. I would go to Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore at that. Sky Moore might be more deserving of a target than
goodness. Okay, I think that might be a little disrespectful to Baylor Cupp.
A little too much, my bad.
Yeah, that might be a little too far with Sky Moore. But that's why I'm not panicking or anything like that. And we saw how they were able to flip the switch last year heading into the postseason. It's like, well, hold on a second. They're putting up enough points to win. Their defense, they were able to lean on them despite really not still being an elite unit. But I will say this, they need to start scoring a little bit more by the time they get to the postseason, because I don't think you have that same elite defense from the past season and a half. And that's what we're going to get into next, is the defense, because they're still showing some weaknesses. And this is why there's so much pressure on the offense right now. And I think they are feeling it a little bit. And that's why we're still seeing some of the struggles. I do think Mahomes is pressing just a little bit. He's getting too excited on some of these throws as well. And the Chargers tonight, while none of their numbers blow you away, again, Michael, and I said this after the Raiders game and after the Panthers game, how many times was there a guy on the Chargers offense just wide open? And these are like their B team receivers, and Joshua Palmer and Jalen Reagor, Quentin Johnston, who's largely been considered a bust at this point. The Chiefs cannot cover anyone right now, Michael.
When it's like, it's the frustrating thing, Josh, it's those 2nd and 15 situations where the Chiefs defense collapses. It's very reminiscent of a couple of years ago where that game in Cincinnati where Spags had like a 3rd and 30 or something ridiculous and they converted it. Like, the Chiefs defense really struggles in those 3rd and longs, 2nd and long situations.
Well, and then there was a play tonight where it was 2nd and 18. I believe this was in the 4th quarter. And Quentin Johnston just runs for a first down after getting the ball in the flats.
Yeah.
And there was no resistance whatsoever.
Well, and one stat that I do want to mention, the Chiefs came into this game with the best offense on 3rd down in the NFL, and the Chargers came into this game with the best defense on 3rd down in the NFL. They were the number 1 scoring defense, I guess. That's what they said on the broadcast a bunch, which is funny because I look at the Chargers defense and I don't immediately think, wow, they're a bunch of world beaters. They're the best defense in the NFL, but they are statistically very good defensively. And so I kind of expected the Chiefs offense to struggle in those 3rd down situations, even though they have been good this season. But getting back to the defense, Josh, how are we to complain? How are we to judge when it just seems like we have all of these complaints and criticisms, and come January 16th or whenever that playoff game is, they're a different football team?
No, and I mean, I do think they will get it together at some point. It's just the fundamentals are lacking, and it's the same guys as well, the same players we're seeing struggling out there. Chamari Connor, I thought, was particularly rough tonight again. And it's really a shame to see because I thought he started off this season like as one of the Chiefs' breakout players. I mean, he was great at the start of the season. And since that Jalen Watson injury, and since they've been asking him to do a little bit more, he's been getting cooked. And then another injury, Michael, Joshua Williams, the Chiefs cornerback, went out. Najee Johnson had to play more. Keith Taylor was out there, who's hardly played this year. And I know we never talked about the Steven Nelson news as he is supposed to be visiting tomorrow and potentially signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know what your feelings are on Steven Nelson, Michael, and I know a lot of Chiefs fans aren't fond of Steven Nelson, but you need bodies at this point.
Josh, we're actually going to talk about that after this post-game live stream and get a video up tomorrow for you guys. But I will say that if Brett Veach was a smart man, he would have Steven Nelson come into the building and he would lock him in a room and not let him leave. That's how bad the cornerback situation has been for this Chiefs team. I mean, Josh, how many more injuries can you sustain? I don't want to see Keith Taylor out there. I don't want to live in a world where Keith Taylor is your number 2 cornerback in a postseason game. I don't want to live in that world. They've got to figure out something because it's looking grim.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, too, the pass rush is not helping out the secondary either. No. The secondary was rough. Brian Cook, I mean, he got completely turned around and lost. And then Justin Herbert missed the throw despite the fact that Joshua Palmer was wide open. They got lucky there, but there's just too many busted coverages still in this defense. But the pass rush is doing them no favors either. And I was a little frustrated to see this, Michael. I don't know if you caught this before the game, but Joshua Uche, who the Chiefs acquired at the trade deadline, was made a healthy scratch for this game. He was inactive. And I saw Mike Dana and FAU and George Karlaftis go out there and get stonewalled again. While Joshua Uche, who's a pass rush specialist and has the most bend and athleticism out of any of those guys, he is on the bench unhealthy. And at this point, the Chiefs' asset management baffles me sometimes because Brett Veach gave up a draft pick for Cam Thomas before the season from the Arizona Cardinals, Michael, if you remember that. He's not even on the team anymore.
Yeah.
They gave up another draft pick for Joshua Uche to try and bolster the pass rush. Now he's being made a healthy scratch, and it's like, okay, if I'm Brett Veach, I'm going down to Steve Spagnuolo's office and saying, hey, I'm giving you the guys, and you're not using them, and you're putting the same guys out there. Now, granted, Brett Veach also brought in those guys. But guys that are just not getting it done on the edge right now. And I saw a comment saying George K is a bust. Now, I wouldn't call him a bust, but he's been largely disappointing this year, for sure. I can agree there.
Do we want to talk about FAU? I mean, do we want to get in that conversation?
Well, it's all of them. They're just not winning enough of their one-on-ones. And on one of the Chargers' touchdowns to Quentin Johnston, Chris Jones was getting doubled, and I was watching the Chiefs' edges, and they couldn't get off the block. And it's like, it's the same story every week.
And here's the thing. I was going to say the FAU. The Uche being listed as a healthy scratch, they probably took a swing, and they felt like they missed. But at the same time, like, he hasn't been here that long. Like, you haven't given him that much.
They barely given him any snaps. Like, you've barely seen what the guy can do.
Well, and to give the Chiefs defensive line some, I guess, cut them some slack, the Chargers do have 2 of the best tackles in the game. Joe Alt's fantastic. Sure. Slater's fantastic as well. Like, they've got really good pieces, at that, bookend tackle spot. So I can't get super mad that George Karlaftis didn't torch that Chargers offensive line, but man, it just felt like Justin Herbert had a lot of time to sit back there. And when he did have a time to roll out into the pocket, he could extend plays and make throws. And it took a couple times from Nick Bolton to pop him in the ribs to kind of get him out of the game, get him out of rhythm, because he was just really marching up and down the field on this Chiefs defense.
Yeah, I know he was. And the third quarter is where the Chargers scored most of their points. I mean, that entire third quarter was dominated by the Los Angeles Chargers. It only took 2 drives for them to take the lead. And the Chiefs, I think, what did they go into half with a 13-0 lead? Was that correct? And then by the third quarter, the Chargers had the lead, and the Chiefs offense wasn't able to respond. So again, I'm not trying to throw a freak out party or anything like that, because I still think most of this gets cleaned up, and also this is a divisional game and so on. But yeah, there's still, it feels like there was a lot of cracks in the armor right now.
Yeah, I will say though, you got extremely lucky that Buffalo lost to LA earlier today. And so winning this game, even if it was on a Matthew Wright double doink, you still make that a 2-game lead in the AFC. You secured the number one seed, or not number one, so you secured the division for the 9th consecutive year. There are a lot of small victories inside this win, but man, you'd like to see the Chiefs actually put a team away and not take this to the final seconds of the fourth quarter, man. Like that easily could have gone the Chargers' way because your third string kicker had a chip shot field goal, but there's a reason why he was a free agent. So it's like that could have gone so many other ways, but the Chiefs got lucky. It went their way.
Yeah. And I still, they got lucky. They got lucky. And I texted my parents that after the game too. I was like, another lucky game. And even my dad was like, they'll be one and done in the postseason if they play like that in the postseason. And I don't disagree because, and that's I
don't know though. I don't know. The Chargers are a postseason team. The Chargers and the Broncos, both postseason teams.
I suppose, but to make a deep run, when you get to playing some of these really good teams, these better teams that match up with you talent-wise, the execution is going to have to be a lot better. And I'm sure it will be. It's just one of those Chiefs games, man.
You can't score one touchdown and expect to win football games. One touchdown.
Yeah, no, you have to score more than a touchdown for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I'm still mad at Andy Reid for the way that he handled that last possession because I'm like, this is your third string kicker. Let's not get too comfortable. Let's try to score. Actually,
you could have made it down to the 5. Or
the
why
2-yard
line?
Well, and then Chris Collinsworth brought it up on the broadcast. It's because Andy Reid let it go down to 1 second before calling timeout, and Chris Collinsworth points out it's only third down. So why don't you call a timeout at 7 seconds left or 5 seconds, just in case there's a mishap or something? Give yourself that cushion. And Andy Reid's like, no, I'm going to let this run down to the 1. And it's like, well, that doesn't. You literally give yourself zero margin for error when you do that. That is out coaching yourself.
He's got the most confidence in the world in guys that he probably shouldn't have confidence in. I mean, I like Matthew Wright. He's done a fine job of filling in, but there's a reason why he wasn't the choice over Schrader. Schrader was the second option and he got hurt. So here we are with Matthew Wright. And the fact they're relying on him to win football games is just, it's unfair to Matthew Wright, to be quite honest with you. But the Chiefs just have that mentality that they're going to do whatever it takes to win. And if that's kicking 4 field goals to beat a divisional opponent, they're going to do that.
Well, what's interesting is they had Justin Reed on kickoffs tonight, which I enjoyed seeing, but that may have saved Matthew Wright's leg just enough to be able to knock that last field goal in.
Yeah, and they mentioned that Arrowhead just got new sod put down because KU was playing on the field at the same time that the Chiefs had it this year. And so they were going out there and patting down the spots where Wright was going to kick because there might have been a seam or the grass might have been up. Literally going and pulling out all the stops. But listen, we can kind of breathe easy. But I was watching this game at home with my girlfriend. And as soon as Matthew Wright went out there to kick the game winner, I was kind of like, I have a really weird feeling about this. I don't know how. I don't know. I know he's perfect, but I just have this weird feeling that the Chiefs' luck is going to run out. And I was maybe a doink off. I mean, it literally, if that ball just goes a smidge to the left, the Chiefs are 11-2.
I'll be completely honest. In most of these scenarios where it comes down to a game-winning field goal, I tend not to watch. I'll cover my ears and close my eyes, and I'll look up and I'll see what the result is because I've usually had pretty good luck with that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit and watch this one. And when I saw it hit the goalpost, my heart dropped. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I should have just hid my face. But then it banked in and the refs, put up the signal. And I'm like, thank goodness. But I'm like, Andy Reid, you lucky mother effer, because I was about to obliterate him on the post-game show if Matthew Wright had missed that.
And I think the Chiefs still know that there is plenty of work to get done. And you still have to improve a lot. But I would rather go through these games and win them and not hurt your playoff seeding than learning these tough life lessons when you're 11-6 like you were last season and having to go on the road 2 times in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I also just hope at some point, like one of these games does come easy for the Chiefs, so that your starters don't have to play the entire time. That sure would be nice, and maybe to give some of the other younger defensive backs some playing time that you otherwise wouldn't be able to give them because you're afraid that they're going to mess up and it's going to cost you the game. I don't like all these games coming down to the absolute last play. And even Mahomes has said that, and I think that should tell you something that like this team right now, they're not disgusted at their performance in this game because the Chargers are a respectable team and it's a divisional game and it's prime time, but they were disgusted with their performance after the Panthers game, and they were disgusted with their performance after the Raiders game. And so that kind of told me that those games weren't by design. Those weren't just like, hey, the Chiefs are okay with anything as long as it's a win. Like, they were wanting those games to be over before the fourth quarter, but they weren't because they're not playing well right now. But this was a much better team, so it's a little bit more acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team that if the season ended right now, they're in the playoffs. And so you beat yet another playoff team. If you want to go down the list, the Chiefs have beaten playoff team after playoff team, and their remaining strength of schedule has a couple more playoff teams on that list. So it's not like the Chiefs' schedule just opens up and, it's all sunshine and rainbows from this point on. You still have to play the Texans. You still have to play the Steelers. You got to play Denver again. Hopefully by the time you got to play Denver in week 17, right? Is it week 18? You don't have to play the starters because you have the 1 seed locked up. Yeah. Maybe the philosophy there is you got to play them a little bit because if you don't play them, then they're not going to play for 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Now, next week they take on the Cleveland Browns. That should be a win. And I don't know if we'll see old friend Kadarius Toney or not, Michael, but I would be really happy if we did because he played for the Browns today. He was a call-up from the practice squad. And he had a taunting penalty when the Browns were down 2 scores after he fielded a kick. And then he muffed a punt in which the Steelers recovered. So
that taunting penalty was on a fair catch, Josh.
I'm glad to see Kadarius Toney back to his ways. I hope we get to see him next week.
You could take You can take the player out of the Chiefs, but you can't take the Chiefs out of the player, man.
Well, that's kind of how I feel about DJ Humphries now that he's here, because it's like he just got that Chiefs negative injury aura, and it got him immediately.
Well, hopefully that injury is not too serious, too. We're going to keep you guys updated with that because, I mean, I don't want to say that if he's done for the season, we're cooked, but it's just like the Chiefs just cannot catch a break. Can they get anybody to play more than 2 weeks without tearing something?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that it's nothing too serious, but my gut tells me offensive lineman, a lot of weight on that leg. That's probably at least a couple week injury, even with the slightest hamstring aggravation.
You know, to cut Jawan Taylor a little bit of slack, he was on the injury report a lot this week with that knee injury. Maybe he's not playing 100%. Maybe that's why he had such a rough game. But, yeah, I mean, it's so funny because going into this game, I was going to talk about how the Chiefs are entering this game healthier than they've been all season. And then Mecole Hardman hurt his knee and's on IR, and he's probably
and what the hell happened there? I mean, it wasn't even injured in practice. Andy Reid said it was like before practice is when it got hurt. And then, you know, he said his knee locked up on him. I'm thinking, okay, like he tweaked it or whatever, but maybe he's out this week. And then he gets put on IR. I'm thinking, how bad was it? Like, what is going on?
You saw right away the Chiefs made him questionable for that game, like within an hour of the injury. And it's like, whoa. A non-practice injury, and he's questionable an hour after you report that he's injured? Like, I almost knew that he was going to IR because it just seemed like this is going quickly. But hopefully he can come back at some point this season. I mean, can he come back this season? We're running out of weeks to come back.
Yeah, no, I mean, he could be activated in the postseason, but yeah, that's rough. I saw this from my guy Price Carter on Twitter, though. He pointed out that 4 of the 6 Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers that were on the opening day roster, the receivers, they have since been put on IR. 4 out of the 6 of them. Yeah, so it's been a rough season for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And Josh, we're 12-1. We're 12-1.
Which is why Andy Reid should be a serious candidate for Coach of the Year. Now, I want to throw this out there because I don't know if this will happen. Otherwise, I'd like make a video about it or whatever, but I don't know how likely it actually is. But Deontay Johnson was suspended for one game, and we can wrap it up after this as well. But he was suspended for one game from the Baltimore Ravens for, I guess, having an outburst over his playing time, and he has not been playing a lot. So I am crossing my fingers, Michael, that the Baltimore Ravens maybe release Deontay Johnson, and then he comes over to Kansas City like he should have always ended up in Kansas City. Now, some people may say, hey, maybe we shouldn't go after this guy, but I feel like the Chiefs culture maybe could fix him, and that would give you another receiver to replace McCole Hardman, who's now on IR, because I don't know if we see him again.
He's having such a weird season. I mean, he was good in Carolina. He got pissed at Carolina, got traded to Baltimore, got upset with Baltimore, and now it's like, is he going to play at any point this season? So I have no idea what's going on with Deontay Johnson. Getting suspended because you don't check into a game when called to check into a game after complaining about your playing time is insane. Like, actually insane. And so I think even if he got cut, the Chiefs might not touch him with a 10-foot pole.
I almost kind of wonder, though, if the Baltimore Ravens just acquired him to keep him away from a team like Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. But, you saw the reports afterwards that the Chiefs had really no intention of going to get Deontay Johnson. So it's like maybe they saw these character concerns from a mile away. But he's kind of had this follow him in Pittsburgh, in Carolina, in Baltimore. It doesn't matter where he is. He's just a tough guy to get, I guess, on the same page with everybody else, because he just complains and complains and complains and just doesn't do what he's told.
Well, he wouldn't be the last wide receiver, the first wide receiver, I should say, out of Pittsburgh to be productive there and then leave, and then just everything goes downhill. So I don't know. Mike Tomlin just keeps running a smooth operation there despite everything. But we're getting a little bit off track. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Michael, Kansas City Chiefs win 19-17. Any closing thoughts?
Chiefs the luckiest team alive. Double doink will forever be a thing that I will hold over Chargers fans' heads. 19-17 is the final score for the second game in a row against another divisional opponent. It just seems like the Chiefs are on a mission and they're going to win. And it's just because they're better than you. They might not play better than you, but they are a better football team than you. And so they're going to win. It's just, I don't know what kind of voodoo magic they got going on in the practice facility at Arrowhead, but keep it going. It's working.
Yeah, there must be some like ritual that they do during walkthroughs at the end of the week in practice or something like that. Because this is just, I mean, how many more different ways can a team win? It's insane. I don't know.
Josh, we've gone from blocked extra kick or field goal attempt. We've gone from botch snap to double doink. We've got 3 just insane wins on this season resume so far. And Josh, we're not even in the postseason yet.
Oh, we are not. I'm sure there will be more crazy ways, but we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there, folks. So we appreciate you all being here tonight, watching the show. This is the first time that Michael and I decided to try to do the 2-way on both of our channels so that everyone could get together. Both the communities could join forces. So I think this was a lot of fun, but all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to both of our channels. I included Michael's in my description. You should also be able to easily access Michael's channel from this side as well. So make sure you do that. Be on the lookout for more content this week, as both Michael and I will be pumping stuff out. And yeah, that'll be it. So we'll see you all in the next one, and go Chiefs.
Double doink.